One of the things I've noticed about this country, man, is the fact that people nowadays just can't take an L. They just can't. They can't take an L. Um, I don't know whether it's a thing about our culture. Winning is everything. Um, you don't get a trophy for second place. All these different mantras now. People like if they lose, like their egos are so fragile, their self esteem is so shaky that it's like they get defined by that shit. They can't take a little. I don't know, man. I tie it to the narcissism culture to a great degree. Narcissism is out of control in our society. Everybody's about themselves, and that does make sense. That's why we have this or had this guy in the White House. Um, and it's not even just politics, man. Sports. Like back in the day, look, I understand if you have a really close series, that goes down to the wire, or there's a game that the calling is so overly biased, overtly biased, that as a fan, you have to like be like, okay, look, would you guys really have won this championship if it wasn't for this game right here? I get stuff like that. But if your team, I'm just talking about basketball now. If your team loses a series 4 games to 1, 4 games to 2, 99% of the time it's because the team that won 4 games is better than your team. Okay? Back in the day, you'd be like, look, that team is better than ours. They had better coaching. They made better adjustments. They got the better players. They executed better down the stretch. Um, you know, they were just a superior team, and hopefully we can make some trades in the off season. Maybe even try to get a better coach for this, with a better system, and make some trades, draft picks, whatever. And hopefully we'll be back, and maybe we can be a better team. But you don't see that now. You see people that say shit like, I mean, they should win. I mean, look at the free throw disparity. Okay, look, my team, we only shot 37 free throws the whole series. They shot 61. 61. I mean, how you gonna win? Never mind the fact that his team has a bunch of 3-point shooters, while the other team has, guys that score in the paint or physical. So therefore they're gonna draw more fouls. But anyway, yeah, I mean, look at the free throws. I mean, look at the biasness. Look at the biasness. But he don't mention that his team, averaged far more points from the 3-point line than other teams to even it out. I mean, look at this. I mean, look at all the All Stars they got. They got 4 players that went to the All Star game. We only had 2. How you gonna win like that? I mean, of course they're supposed to win. And it's like, man, just shut up, man. You're just such a whining, like you just can't take a. Then when they win though, and you point out that they had advantages, well, that's just what a winning team does. I hate fans like I hate these motherfuckers, man. You whining bitch ass motherfuckers. You know who the worst when it comes to that, man? I gotta be honest. The Cowboy fans. They are the fucking worst, man. Whenever they win, how you like us? How you like us Cowboys? That's how we do it. But when they lose, I don't know the fuck Jerry Jones them doing. So they disown the team when they win. I mean when they lose. But that's like they co-owner with Jerry Jones when they win and shit. I don't know what they doing. Man, they better get better. Look how everybody, a lot of people, fanboys, they tend to do shit like that. They disassociate themselves when the team lose. They don't want to be part of that. But when they win, they want to be part of it. Yeah. See what we did out there. Man, fuck you, you fair weather fan. Can't stand them motherfucker. That's why at least I respect Giants fans and, Eagles fans, even though I know they got intense rivalry. And I respect Redskin fans because at least the ones I've known, they stayed loyal, whether they were losing or winning. So, but getting back to the point of this video, though, man, Trump fans, Trump supporters, just give it up, okay? Just give it up, okay? And I remember 4 years ago when you had all those people on the left protesting Trump's victory, even though there was pre-election evidence of voter intimidation and voter influence when it came to Russia, okay, and meddling in our election. They've been reporting that for weeks, if not months, prior to the election, okay. But even with that, I was irritated with all those people on the left trying to overturn the election. Look, man, just accept the results, recoup, reorganize, and try to win next time, okay. But you had a bunch of young people who only knew the Obama years, never knew what it was like to lose an election like that. They got so emotionally invested in Hillary and the 18 cracks in the million cracks in the ceiling, and she's gonna be the first Madam President, and all that shit. And when their candidate lost, which is always a possibility in most elections, especially nowadays, you got to be mentally prepared for an L. They weren't. You know, they tried to get the thing overturned too with the electoral college. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't work. But this this is ridiculous. Okay? It's over. Okay? Yesterday, the electoral college officially commenced to certify the results. Because of the stakes involved, there were no faithless electors this time. There was 306 for Biden, 232 for Trump. 4 years ago, there were some faithless electors. It was, I think, two electors in Texas declined to vote for Trump, so it pushed them down to 304. And there were five electors, I think, in two different states that didn't vote for Hillary, that pushed her down to 227. But it didn't affect the election. And you're going to see that from time to time. In elections, you're going to see some faithless electors. Like, for instance, in 1820, James Monroe was going to win a unanimous electoral college victory. He really had no opponent that election. But there was an elector, I think it might have been in New Hampshire or Vermont or Maine, I can't remember one of those states, who declined to vote for Monroe and voted for John Quincy Adams, who wasn't even running for president. But they did it, depending on the source, either because they didn't like Monroe's policies, which doesn't make sense, um, or they did it for probably the more likely reason. They wanted to preserve George Washington as the only president to be unanimously elected by Electoral College. Then, in 1968, there was an elector in North Carolina, a state that Nixon won, who refused to vote for Nixon and voted for Wallace. That pushed Nixon down from 302 to 301 and upped Wallace from 45 electoral votes to 46 because he carried some other states in the Deep South. Then 4 years later, in 1972, when Nixon clobbered McGovern, Nixon went from 521 to 520. When one elector in Virginia voted for the minor party candidate, the Libertarian candidate, I think it was John Hosper. Okay, we've seen it. We've seen this. There was an elector in 1988 that instead of voting for Dukakis and got what state it was, but West Virginia, I think it was West Virginia. There was one elector that voted instead of for Dukakis, they voted for his vice presidential candidate for president, Lloyd Bentsen. All right, so we've seen this, but that's it. Um, it's pretty much a done deal. Okay, Joe Biden's gonna be the next president. Okay, the only hope that they have is when the U.S. Senate meets in January and they officially certify the results. Okay, and that's when the vice president finally reads the votes, the electoral votes, and certifies it before the Senate. That's it. Okay. Um, I think the only thing that can possibly overturn the election, it's never happened before in history, or challenge the results at least. I believe it has to be a U.S. senator that puts out an official challenge of the results. And then even with that, I think there has to be for it to go forward. I can't remember the everything now. I think it has to be at least half or 50 plus 1% of the United States Senate voting to challenge the results or something like that. I can't remember, but it's such a far fetched, uh, situation or scenario that it's never going to happen. So it's over. It's over. Okay, Trump lost. Move on. Okay, it's over. Your Messiah, your Führer, your God, he proved to be mortal. This isn't a victory for, in my opinion, for anybody because Joe Biden is pretty much just more of the same. Okay. Um, I think personally, for any real change to occur, you need to work on it on your personal life because, waiting on the government to do things for you, you'll be waiting until you're a decomposed skeleton. Um, you're more likely to affect the results or get more substantive change in local elections or local government. You know what I'm saying? But these people, to me, they're all just the same. Whether it's Trump or Biden, it's pretty much the same. Um, as a matter of fact, the Democratic leadership, in my opinion, Pelosi, Schumer, um, you know, Biden, Harris, all of these people are just establishment corporate whores, and they do whatever their corporate corporate leaders tell them to. Okay, they're puppets, and the status quo is what it is. So it doesn't matter if it's Trump or Biden. They're not going to. They don't work for us. They use us, but they don't work for us. They work for Wall Street. They work for these corporate CEOs. You just got to look at things like this. Who has benefited the most from people in power over the past several decades? There's a reason why the average CEO has gone from making $100,000 a year in the 1970s to literally tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in some scenarios today. That's a gaping gap in wealth between the haves and the damn near have nots. Middle class wiped out. It's interesting how during this whole scenario with the pandemic, remember how even though they claim they don't have the money for it, remember how just before the pandemic really hit and Wall Street was taking a hit, remember how Congress voted to give them $1.6 trillion dollars, and then during the pandemic, the actual package, they gave them another what, 2 trillion, but gave us a funky $1,200 check, which they make us feel guilty about for getting that anyway. You know what I'm saying? I didn't mean to add all this extra to the video, but it's just what it is, man. But tell me what you guys think. Fuck, fuck both